Hello little sewers, it's Psycho Sue. And today I want to talk to you about those pesky little sleeves. Your typical sleeve, once you cut it out, is in this bell shape, and it usually has 3 marks on it. I'm okay, Martini, it's okay. That's my pug. This is the center shoulder seam mark, and then there's usually 2 more on the other side of it, which I clip here, and here. In between these 2 marks on the outside is what they call ease, and this doesn't match up directly with the arm sit shape. What you have to do is ease it in. There's more fabric here on the sleeve than there is on the sleeve hole, so that's why they call it ease. Then there's this double notch mark. See? The double notch always means this is the back of your sleeve. This is the part when you put on your arm, it's going to be back here. And in the front, there's usually a single mark. And this is a sleeve that I drafted, so it's a little weird shaped. And it's for a dress I'm working on right now, so I stitch these cute little hearts. First thing you do with your sleeve after you cut it out is turn it under to the wrong side, and then what I do is edge finish and basically hem it like you would the bottom of a dress. But then I added this cute decorative stitching in a contrast color. So once that's done, the easy thing is fold it right sides together like this, matching up these ends here. Mine are really skinny because I want my sleeves to be short. This length will vary depending on your sleeve pattern. This is called the underarm seam. You sew this seam, and then you basically have your sleeve. Some people finish this seam. Sometimes if it's really short like this, you can pink it. So that's what you do with your sleeve first. I have my sleeve on here. You turn your blouse or your dress inside out. So here is my dress. It's inside out. You can see, flip it all the way inside out. There's my facings. You have to find which sleeve goes on which armhole. That's a little tricky. What you have to do is look for that double notch seam, and you have to figure out by stuffing your sleeve inside the armhole to match the double notches inside the armhole. So here's one of my sleeves. It's black, unfortunately, so it's hard to see. Here it is. First thing I do, once my garment's inside out, turn my sleeve inside out, or right side out, sorry. Here's my nice finished edge. And I stuff it inside the armhole like this. The first thing I match up is the underarm seam. Here's the top of the arm, here's the underarm seam. I match that up and pin it. Then I move on to the double notches in the back, match those up and pin it. And then the single notch on the front, match that up and pin it. Now I flip it around so the top shoulder seam is on top. Here's my shoulder seam. And I find the center notch in the sleeve cap, which is just on right here. Oh, I forgot to tell you one thing. Before I put it in here, between those ease notches here and here, I sewed a basting stitch inside the seam allowance, which is about a half inch inside. So the basting stitch is a really loose stitch, so I can pull it and create gathers in the sleeve, and that's how I get the ease to sit in. So I match up my center seam with the center notch, pin it on the inside. Now you have all that ease left, and that's what you use the basting stitch for. So I grab the end of my basting stitch. Here's the end of my basting stitch. I'm going to pull it. Just one string, the top string. See how it's created gathers like that? Well, you pull those pretty tight, then you let them go. I have to do this facing you so you can see. So you see those gathers there? Well, I don't want them all gathered in one spot like that. So what I need to do is spread them out. Spread the gathers out until my armhole meets my sleeve perfectly with the amount of material that's in between there. And I pin it. So here's my center seam. Here's all the E's kind of rippled in there, so when I sew, it's going to create tiny puckers, not big puckers, not folds, not darts, just a little bit of puckers where all the extra material is going to go. So then you have to repeat that on the other side between your shoulder seam again and all the extra material you have left on that side. So I have extra material, more sleeve than I do sleeve hole. So I line it up. I'm trying to gauge how much I need to gather. Looks like there's really not any gathering that I need to do on this side. Looks like I'm going to have more gathers on the back side. So then once you have everything met up, you can kind of play with the gathers. Get them to sit where you want them. You don't want anything to be too obviously bunched up somewhere. So that's what a sleeve hole looks like when it's pinned. Let me turn it this way. Here's my shoulder. Landscape, portrait, landscape, portrait. So once that's done, take it over to the sewing machine here and I'll show you how I sew it. Sometimes you want to sew with a basting stitch first, just in case you make a mistake or something drastic happens. It's easier to rip out, but you don't have to. I always kind of start at the armpit area, and if your sewing machine has one of these tables, these removable tables, it clips in here like this. Best thing for sleeves is get rid of that table, because you need to basically, I lost a pin, no. You need to basically take that sleeve and just, man, these things are tricky. Okay. Take that sleeve and just kind of dress it on your sewing machine. Pretend like you're dressing an arm. It goes right over the sewing machine like it would a person. So I like start at the armpit and start sewing 5/8 around the curve. You could sew over the pins or you could take them out. It's up to you if you're feeling lucky punk. So you just need to keep things together, because as you're sewing around the curve, the fabric will bunch and move, and you need to kind of keep it from creating huge puckers. Also, inside your little armhole here, or your neck hole, you can see the sleeve that I'm sewing right here. It's underneath. You want to grab that sleeve and you want to make sure it's out here, because if you don't, you'll sew the end of your sleeve to your armhole. I've done that. So always kind of feel around in here, check out where your sleeve is, make sure it's out here, it's not folded underneath, because you really can't see what's going on in there. Keep working around. Now I'm at the shoulder seam, pulling on my sleeve on the inside, making sure it's staying to the outside, not getting underneath the presser foot. Just sewed over the gathers that I made under there. Everything went nicely. And coming around the back. Lost a pin. I wouldn't even walk in my sewing room barefoot. Alright, coming around to where I started. Now, what do you do with the armpit seam? Some people will leave it together like this. Some people will split it open like this and sew over it. I'm going to finish my seam allowances together, so I'm going to sew right over top of it, laying down. Do a little reinforcement back stitch. And my sleeve is sewn on. So the next thing you want to do is kind of doing an inspection of what it looks like on the outside. Check for any weird puckers. So I flip it right side out. Flip, flip, flip it. Flip, flip. Flip, 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 flip it. Okay. So now you can see here some of the gathers that were made whenever I pulled my basting thread. Here's what the sleeve's going to look like on. It's going to have a few gathers of ease. And one thing I'm noticing that I got going on right here is, show you, see these row of stitching right here. This is my basting stitch. And I'll pick it out so it doesn't, you don't see this weird row of stitching in the sleeve area. So some people leave their basting stitches in. Sometimes you could take them out, but I'm just going to take this out because it's showing, and it's showing a little bit here on the sleeve cap. So what you would need to do is finish these edges on the inside with your serger, or with I use an edge stitch, and then iron the sleeve cap. Some people don't have to iron the, I believe there are two ways you can iron the seam allowance in a sleeve. You can have it facing towards the neck or facing towards the arm. If you face it towards the arm, then it makes your sleeve stick out more. If you iron it towards the neck, then your sleeve will hang more like that. So it's up to you how you want the sleeve to hang. So that's how you sew a sleeve. They're tricky, and you probably end up ripping it out and doing it 3 times. But that's how it's done. And I can show you guys some alterations I make on patterns for sleeves. This sleeve here is custom fitted to my arm. I have big biceps, so that happens to a lot of girls. They have bigger biceps, especially now since girls work out in the gym. So that'll be one useful alteration I'll be able to show you guys. Hope you had fun sewing with me. Bye.